So I'm here this afternoon with Dan Atkinson, who is head of technical at Paradigm Norton. I was lucky enough that Dan came on my Thinking Environment Foundation course earlier this year and has agreed to have a bit of a chat with me about how things have changed for him since that time and what he learned from that course and how he's brought that into his work. So thanks so much for taking the time to have a chat this afternoon, Dan.
Thank you, Becca. Pleasure.
Welcome. It's lovely to spend a bit of time with you again. So I'd love to start off with just asking you about a little bit about why you said yes, I guess, why you signed up to the course. I mean, I'm very aware that you're very invested in your personal and professional development, and obviously as head of technical, I imagine you spend quite a lot of time on technical CPD. But curious because this could seem a bit extracurricular for you, couldn't it? So what made you sign up? What made you say yes?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of say it's probably not really extracurricular as such. So there's no point having any technical knowledge whatsoever unless you can communicate that. And to an extent, it's really interesting to know about pensions and investments and tax and all that geekery. And I know I have got friends who I would geek out with that. But in my job, I'm here to support people and help them to apply that. And you can't really do that unless you really are able to communicate well. So um, my personal development isn't just about keeping up to date with technology, sort of tech changes and technical legal things. It's about, well, how can I better communicate that to our team, and how can I equip them to have better conversations with their clients? So actually coming on the course was really valuable and core rather than extracurricular, uh, in my kind of opinion.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think I tend to see it like that, but I'm not sure that everybody does. So yeah, that's great to hear. That's great to hear. So what has changed in your approach, I guess, life or work or both, since coming on that course back in May?
So sometimes there's a real temptation to jump in and be like the kind of the white knight and give the answers straight away. And actually, the course kind of reminded me around that, just making sure that you've actually understood the question and not jumping straight in. So we've actually started using thinking partnerships in some parts of our business.
Hi, Becca here. What Dan's referring to here is a practice where two people think in turn together about a topic of their choice, usually for about 5 minutes each, without interruption or comment from the listener. It's easier said than done, but the tools and techniques that we use make it a wonderful practice in the art of listening to understand, rather than simply listening to reply and waiting your turn to speak. Back to Dan.
Uh, and starting to help people kind of go, it's a great way to just unpack your thoughts uh, in a way that quite a lot of people might just do that internally in their heads, but sometimes just verbalizing and talking through processes information really, really well. So we started doing that, and I'm trying to use that in some of my other kind of professional capacities. So particularly within the CISI, and it's helpful where you're trying to chair a committee.
Cool. So have you changed up the structure of any of your meetings? Because you did quite a lot of that on the 2-day course, didn't you?
So I've started introducing elements of it. I've not been quite as radical as I perhaps wanted to on those courses, but where we have done those and where we have brought in rounds of appreciation and where we have introduced that turn taking and reminded people to be thoughtful about place, and I've been thoughtful about place for this meeting and chosen a room that's got, well, it was natural daylight a couple of hours ago, but it's got a brightness and more intimacy to it. So it has and it hasn't. I've always been mindful of having clear structure, but it's made it all the more important to get the most out of people, to be really intentional about that.
Have you noticed a difference in engagement then in changing those approaches, even if subtly?
Yes, yeah. So we've been working as a paraplanner interest group committee around some things for CISI, and that's trying to carve out turn taking,
Mm.
particularly has meant that everyone's been able to bring their best thoughts. Some of my other professional activities, we've taken that thinking turns concept and applied it, and it's been interesting actually seeing those who haven't come across it uh, moving from feeling maybe slightly awkward to start with to feeling really empowered and listened to and heard, which is obviously what we intend to do when we implement these practices. So that's been quite exciting because we've started it's creating the space for generative ideas, if I could even say the word.
That's really great to hear. It's interesting that, isn't it, that it does feel a little bit awkward, or it often feels a little bit awkward to begin with, because people, I think sometimes people who are very used to kind of sitting back in meetings and not contributing as much, happy to kind of watch things unfold around them, suddenly there is an expectation that they will contribute, and that can feel a little bit daunting to start with, I think. But nice to hear that that's turning into empowerment. Just takes a little while sometimes.
Yeah, we had a moment at a company day, so there's 90 odd of us in a room,
Mm.
and we were doing thinking pairs. And the first time round, half the people felt really awkward, and then you could hear the buzz in the room, and you could feel it. And yeah, it's an incredibly exciting tool.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's fantastic to hear. I often notice that the kind of buzz that starts up, and you can kind of almost hear all the cogs turning as people are really getting thinking. So that's really fantastic to hear. So you read Time to Think as well, didn't you? Just possibly following the course, or just over the time that we were together. So what was there more that came out for that from that book and reading that for you? What other impacts, I guess, might that have on the way that you approach your work?
So I think the big thing that I really took back was place
Mm.
and creating that place, designing the kind of place of the meeting to maximize the effects of what you were trying to achieve, and being really, really, really deliberate about it. And I'm trying to apply that to stuff at home life, thinking around, well, if you're trying to try and have a conversation, where might you do that? If you're trying to catch up with people, what's the venue, for want of a better word, to do that? In work, thinking more deliberately about, okay, well, I'm going to have this interaction with this colleague or this vendor or this fund manager. What is the best way for doing that? What do I want to achieve? How do I want to design that space? Down to almost which meeting room do I want to select? Do I want to do this in a meeting room in our office? Do I want to go to their place? Do I want to find somewhere that's neutral? Uh, I, that's been the kind of the big thing for me. I've often read about having circular tables for your meeting rooms, and I've kind of gone, oh, this is really, really exciting, and never really done anything about it. But these are things that you can really do and take action on, and it means that when I'm in a room where there's less control, so in the building we're in at the moment, there are some refurbs going on above us and I think below us, and so sometimes there are like occasional drilling and stuff, not very often, thankfully, but you become more conscious of that, not because, oh, that's really annoying, but because that's something that's interrupted the place, interrupted the moment and the feel. So uh, yeah, the place and the feeling of that place are really, really important, and that's probably the big thing that I took away.
Hmm. That's really interesting, Dan. I'm not sure. We talk, obviously we talk quite a lot about place, but I'm not sure that that many people. That's not the one that most people um, latch on to. But I find it very interesting. You're very purpose driven, I think, and so you actually go back to that process that you're going through of, what's the purpose of this meeting? What do I want to get out of it? What does the other person want to get out of it? I'm really thinking about it in that context. I think is again, it's just a really intentional way of being and interacting with people. Yeah, really interesting to hear you talk about it in that way. It's definitely given me a new perspective as well.
Yeah, no, and it's kind of some of the other things are helpful reminders or challenges around kind of interrupting people,
Mm.
and sometimes just reading books like this really helps you. Just it shines a light when these things happen. I say it'll shine a light if you're in a meeting and you're just kind of very conscious. Oh no, no, no. I just bite me tongue there and actually let them really really finish. And so sometimes it's hard as a chair of some of these meetings, these interactions, these moments, these gatherings, for want of a better word, uh, to to be able to jump in on people who are interrupting and say, just give them a moment. So yeah, it makes you behave more intentionally around your interactions.
Yeah, definitely. And that piece around interruptions, like trusting that what the other person is about to say isn't more important than what you're about to interject. I read something earlier on today actually about just that. What do we risk if we don't interrupt somebody? All we really risk is delaying when we can make the point that we want to make, because we already know that, we've already got that idea in our head. All we're really risking is delaying what we've got to say. Whereas if we choose to interrupt, what we're risking is losing that thought that person might have been about to have. So yeah, it's a fascinating way of thinking about interruption.
I don't know about you, but I've often found that they've made the point that I was about to make. And sometimes you kind of go, oh, am I doing this because I feel that I need to demonstrate my value to the other person? And it's going to go, well, is my value as head of technical in my technical knowledge and experiences? I mean, to an extent it is, but it's not really. The value that I present, and for financial planning professionals, the value that financial planning professionals present is enabling people to achieve things. So enabling our clients to live the best life that they can, enabling them to make great decisions, enabling them to feel that they can sleep at night with their investment portfolios. My role is to enable people to do that. So it's not about me imparting my great wisdom and experience. It's about enabling them to unpack that and draw them. And uh, it feels really awkward. It feels really unintuitive. But you start to receive the feedback that, oh, that was really valuable. And you kind of go, I didn't say a single word there, or I barely spoke. Um, so it's interesting. And because you become more intentional about it, you start looking for it. So uh, I like to record some of my team's meetings, and we use Copilot to help us with some of the minute taking, perhaps sometimes. But little tools that kind of go, here's a little red line of how long you spoke in this meeting, and starting to become more conscious of going, well, I don't want that to be me speaking for 90% of the meeting. I want that to be less. And you can visually see and visually reinforce your practices of, no, I need to actually listen properly.
That's such a helpful use of tech, isn't it, in kind of managing our own habits, and as you say, again, being more intentional about reinforcing the behaviours that we want to draw out of ourselves. Well, that's really cool. I haven't played around with Copilot yet, but maybe that'll make me download it and have a bit of a look. So you mentioned there about what you see the job of financial planning professionals being and financial planners being. What positive impact do you think the time to think approach, the thinking environment approach, could have on the financial planning profession?
I think that particularly advice professionals, we have this thing of that was my job as a financial advisor, and that probably really doesn't help us in the slightest at times. Clients do come to us for advice, and I have read many financial optionsing reports that claims to be recommendations that were more of a, you could do this, you could do that, you could do the other. Like, we're here to give advice, absolutely, but the financial planning professional, this course helps remind you that the advice is one part of it. You can't. There's the Stephen Covey quote, which I'll probably butcher around. If you haven't got the ladder planted against the right wall, well, you're not got no hope of getting to where your destination is. Uh, so these enable you to have great, great client conversations. I remember when we had our time together on our course. my feedback or my immediate feeling was that it was such a beautiful gift to be given to think. And I just think that would be absolutely amazing if your clients came out just feeling so unbelievably heard in a way they'd never ever had. They'd be clients for life.
Mm.
But more than that, because you've actually heard them, you're solving the right problem. You're optimizing the financial plan for the life they want to live. You're able to enable them to make those informed decisions in a way that could never be possible otherwise, or will be very, very hard. So when you've done that, then the financial advice and the implementation is so much easier. And you'll find that your paraplanning professional will find it so much easier to write the report, the recommendations, because not only will we have the amazing holy cows, the client's own words, but they'll have a real sense of the passion and the direction and the buttons to press to enable that client to follow through. So
Mm.
it's not just we recommend that you transfer your pension to the XYZ platform. It's in order to put your money in the right place to set you up to achieve the life that you want to live. We need to do this, and that's why we recommend it. I think that a client receiving that type of recommendation would be falling over themselves to proceed, be falling
Mm.
over themselves to have that ongoing relationship. There wouldn't be that kind of uh, the few people who don't turn up for an annual planning meeting or they're a nightmare to put in the diary, because you would be reminding them that this is actually a really special time
Mm.
and a time when they are in a safe, protected place, talk about things that they might not normally be facilitated to speak about. So I think it'd be incredible, and that skill um, would would stand you out as a financial planning professional, and it would remove your risks of being taken over by an AI robo or whatever the fear du jour it is, because you are able to amplify and display your humanity in it's an amazingly beautiful, powerful way.
Yeah, I mean, you put that so eloquently. I think as you were talking there, I just thought actually we need to gather for the planner, for the file, for the power planner. We need to gather what the client's objectives are, but that's such a kind of cold question, and most people haven't really thought about that. I mean, if I was to ask my other half, what are your objectives for the future, like he would have no idea. And so I think to be able to give clients the space, if maybe that's what your financial planning meetings become about, giving them the space to think about what their objectives are, because actually what you've got that once you've got their vision of what a great life looks like, then the advice piece comes in, then all of the expertise. Okay, so how can we arrange your finances in such a way that will enable you to live your best life, that life that you really dream of. But yeah, that whole idea that people come with kind of pre-formed objectives and are able to come into a meeting and tell you exactly what they are, I just don't think that's the reality.
Mm. Well, I think that sometimes people don't have a clue what their objectives are, but they might have a clue as to what they definitely don't want to achieve.
Yes.
And it's giving them that space and permission and finding ways to open up that conversation for them and enable them to kind of start unpeeling the layers. And yeah, you're quite right. Doing that in the cold, so miss or sir or whatever, what are your objectives? What do you want to achieve? When do you want to retire? These are very big questions anyhow, let alone doing these cold with someone you've maybe met once, maybe had a phone call to just check that you might vaguely get it along with them. Yeah, I think we owe it to our clients to invest in these skills, um, because they are taking a very brave step themselves by trusting professionals in what is not necessarily the most universally trusted profession, with things that are really personal. Uh, there's a mixed view, so whether people are comfortable talking about money or not. I've met people who have gone, absolutely, I talk about money with my friends, and I don't think that really resonates with me. But talking about, well, what are you worried about? What are your concerns? What are your big fears for your family, for you as an individual? That's quite deep stuff. That's not the sort of thing you can do over come in for a cup of coffee and a chat.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So, a final question then: is there anything else that you wish I'd asked you this afternoon?
Oh, these are always good questions. And I think you've asked some great questions. I think it would be interesting to see the third party fly on the wall person's questions as to how they felt. I think maybe the kind of question that some people might be thinking is, well, okay, is this just something that my client-facing advice team should be involved in? And I'd say no. I'd say I think there's definitely some real, tangible, probably measurable benefit for those individuals, for the professionals, to be doing that. But I think this is a skill that the whole of your financial planning team, so from anyone who's touching clients, but anyone who's touching other people in your business, I think that these are the skills that will enable you to transform your business. If you want your business to be transformed, if you want your business to be the best financial planning business that you want, and secretly we all do, this is a really key way to get the absolute best out of everybody, to hear their best, latest thinking, and to turn that into actions which ultimately come out with not just good client outcomes under consumer duty, but absolutely amazing, epic outcomes. There's a guy in the States whose name's completely disappeared off my head who uh, who will not satisfy for providing good value, will not satisfy providing great value. He wants us to, he thinks we should provide epic value to our clients. And I think if that is your passion as a financial planning business owner, you need to get your people to do this. Then you will get epic results from your people. You will be able to deliver that epic service that you desire. Just go for it.
Wow, that's quite an endorsement. Amazing. Thank you, Dan. Well, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I would just like to close by saying I really appreciate your dedication to, I think, to the future of the profession and to really, really epic financial planning, and your commitment to lifelong learning. I felt that from you from when we first met at that Paraplanners Assembly event a couple of years ago. So yeah, really appreciate all of those things about you, Dan.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you sharing these and facilitating these amazing, and these were beautiful moments in these courses where people can experience and know this intangible thing, and to come away. And I think that the result of that will be kind of multiplicative in terms of impact. So thank you for that gift to those who attend.
Thank you so much, Dan.